Hi there, I'm Karis Brown Malloy and this is Starseed vlog number 3. Today is August 24th, 2011 and the wind is very active today. So I'll try to talk louder in order for you to hear me. I've been sitting here waiting for about 10 minutes and as soon as one gust stops another one starts, so I figure this is Gaia just adding her voice to the video because I'm going to be talking about her a lot today. What I'm going to talk about first, after updating you with what's been going on, is, and there's a plane, noisy day. Anyway, it's going to be psychic attack and addiction, and then later I'll talk about healing Gaia and what we can do and what the children can do, which I'm very excited about that because I know there are a lot of star children running around and some of the parents don't know what to do with these kids that are different, and it's wonderful, but we're not really used to dealing with that because there is a whole lot coming in kind of in the span of one generation. So children are providing different stimuli for growth for the parents. Anyway, so first I'll update you on what's been going on. I went to the Holistic and New Age Expo in Tamaqua, PA on Saturday. That was a lot of fun. It was interesting to see what's in the area because expos, a lot of people come out and put forth their wares and their services for people to see, and so I got to witness some really neat healings and see some really neat products that people are making, crystals and books and art and lots of cool stuff like that. Friday I was going to have a book signing, but there was a huge freakish storm that came through and then left all in a couple hours and power went out at the old building that I was going to be doing the book signing at, so that didn't happen, which, you know, I figured it wasn't supposed to, so that was fine. I'll be rescheduling eventually. Then this week, I don't have anything going on, and I'm going to be taking a break from doing any appearances or any media type stuff until September 10th, when I'll be talking to Kate Valentine on her Viewpoints radio show, and I'll tell you more about that as it's coming up. The reason I'm taking time off is because we're moving in a couple days to a new city. I'm going to try to acclimate to that energy and the group of people and try to kind of get our feet planted in the new space. And I'll still be posting vlogs, so that won't stop. I just won't be doing as many other things to post and to put up. Here's wind again. And I will also be taking time off so I can work on the new book. It's been marinating and incubating, and I think it's time for it to be born. So I'll be trying to do that. It's interesting. It's going to be called Instruction of a Starseed. It's going to kind of pick up where Journal of a Starseed left off. And I didn't realize that this was what I was going to do, but right about at the end of when I was writing Journal of a Starseed, just when I was publishing it, I started to record my meditations as I meditated. I would close my eyes and type on the keyboard. And I didn't know that that was going to turn into the second book up until maybe last week, and I have hundreds of pages of all of the stuff that I get in my meditation, and all of it won't go in, but a lot of it will, and it'll just kind of talk about what I also learn in the more real three-dimensional world through downloads and stuff that comes to me on the wind. So, as to get started, to talk about psychic attack and addiction. This might not be what you're expecting to hear about psychic attack, because I'm not really talking about someone sitting there with a crystal ball or with their meditative intention to try to go out and hurt someone else. I don't think it really happens that way that often. Not that it doesn't happen ever that way, but I think that it's more unintentional, and it's because we've been trained to do that kind of stuff throughout these dark ages that we're now waking up from and becoming sane after this insane period that's been going on for thousands of years. We thought that we were disconnected from the divine, so we had to kind of steal energy from everyone else. So we all do this. When you're irritated or sad or you just feel yucky and you start becoming critical of other people, or you start kind of thinking insulting, mean thoughts, that's when you're stealing from them. And so we're all guilty of it. Or when you judge others. The main way to be aware of when you're either under attack or whether you're kind of doing something yourself that you shouldn't be, don't feel guilty, just recognize it, is when you're obsessively thinking about something. When you kind of can't get something out of your mind. Either it's something someone did or said to hurt you or to insult you, or that has your ego kind of rising up, either in the defensive or the offensive. and you kind of keep turning it over and chewing on it and chewing on it in your brain, that's illness. That's you doing something with your energy field that isn't exactly connected with the divine, as we would all wish to be at this point on this planet, as all of this stuff is happening. So a way to recognize it, like I said, is when you're obsessively thinking about something or someone, or when you notice someone, you see something that they're doing wrong, and then you can't stop thinking about it. Why are they doing that? Don't you see that you're giving your life force to that person? I was actually talking to Kaitlyn Keyt, the creator of Vibes Up, the other day, and she was telling me some more things about how to understand this whole process, and it really helped a lot. One of the things we can do to ground ourselves, because it's when we're ungrounded and when we're kind of sparking away, you can ground yourself by coming out into nature, by recalling that you are divine, you are connected to the divine, as is the person who's stealing from you. So it's impossible for them to drain you because you're connected to an inexhaustible source of life force, as are they. And what ends up happening is when a vampiric energy, be it a human, a non-physical entity, which is almost always around if you're feeling this obsessive or depressed feelings, or the compulsive going back to criticism either on yourself, feeling insecure, comparing yourself to others in a way that either makes you feel less than or makes you feel better than just because you can find the flaws in other people. I've noticed this a lot in girls and young women. When they see models or actresses or something, they kind of have to put them down in order to feel better about themselves because they instantly compare themselves. Well, in truth, we're all divine beings. We're all just as perfect as everyone else. We don't need to compare ourselves to anyone. So one of the ways to handle this is to go out in nature. Actually, Vibes Up makes these amazing shoe inserts that you can put in your shoes, and they connect you again because they have a lot of plant energies and minerals and all these other things that create an electromagnetic field that then ground your energy the way that you would do by walking outside. I'll put a link to them in the info for this video for you to take a look, because they're really neat products and they work ridiculously well. I didn't even believe it myself until I used them, so that was cool. Anyway, you can also just go out into nature. You can remember your divine person, who you actually are, what you actually are. This is a lot of times addictive. Not only addictive from the person who's stealing the energy, but addictive from the person who's giving it. Many of us walk around constantly looking for someone to feed off of our energy because we've been taught by other people who were taught this incorrect thing and then have passed it on, that feeding off of our energy is either love or it's our self-worth. Women, you know this, you who keep getting into destructive relationships over and over and over. And it's because not only are you attracted to men that will abuse you, they're attracted to you because you're walking around energetically saying, please, plug into me, feed off of me. There is a reason for this. It's a distortion of what we should actually be doing. The truth is that we're all creative, divine beings, always putting out all of this energy. We're little generators. And the energy should be going somewhere. We should be creating things. We should be making things grow. When the energy is all turned in on ourselves, it gets corrosive, it gets destructive, it gets stagnant, and it kind of drives us crazy. That's why you see people who are really self-centered or self-absorbed, not necessarily thinking they're better than anyone, often people who think they're not as good as anyone else. It gets destructive and it gets corrosive. So we should always have this energy going out, but not going out to feed another person, because that drains you and it strengthens the addiction between you and the person feeding off of you. So what to do about this? Like I said, go in nature, remember your divine connection, do whatever it is that brings you bliss, not vicarious bliss through someone else. It's a difference between giving someone something and helping them, or giving someone something and trying to manipulate them or make them feel a certain way. Another way to think about this is those of you who've ever had children who are about 4 or 5, or who've been around parents of children who are about 4 or 5, you can see that as these kids are playing, they'll run around and play, and then they'll come and kind of hang out next to their parent for just a couple minutes, and then run around again. What they're doing is charging up, because when a human infant is born, they're carried in our energy field. And then as they grow, they get farther and farther away. You can see with toddlers who are just learning to walk that they even have kind of an energetic tether. They don't go farther away from their caregiver than a certain distance, because they're learning how to create their own. They're still connected by this energy umbilical cord. And then as they grow, they learn how to plug in to the earth and to the divine purpose within each of us and find their own bliss and find their own energy. sometimes this does not happen when children get too big and they keep feeding off of their parents or their caregivers. The interesting thing here, and it's something that happens pretty regularly because all this time on Earth that we've been in the Dark Ages, we've been teaching each other that this is the right thing to do. So it's something that we're having to break out of, and it's painful and you go through withdrawals, but as soon as you see it, seeing it and admitting it to yourself is the first thing, because most people are in denial about it and they'll never admit it to others. That's okay. They don't have to. Just when you realize it, provide an example for other people. Anyway, what happens when those kids grow up is that they end up feeding off the parent. The parent needs the kid to feed off of them because they're living vicariously through that child, through that adult now. They're not doing their own things and finding their own bliss. They're feeling joy and feeling life force vicariously through the now grown child. Often both parties strain against this. Parents freak out a little bit because they can't control the child as much as they want, and the child strains against it because they don't want to be controlled that much, but then both of them snap back into the addiction. The thing to remember here is that it's okay. Never feel guilty. Never feel like you're wrong or bad for doing anything. Just realize what you're doing. Think, perhaps as a human alive on Gaia, as part of this huge consciousness that we're all making up, I'd rather embody a different energy and then pursue that instead. A note for parents that do this is, helicopter parents or parents who are always thinking about their child, always obsessing. Or if you're obsessing about anything, is to follow your own bliss. Do something that makes you happy, and that will plug you in directly to the divine source. And then you'll be healthier, and the person who you're connected to in an unhealthy way will also be healthier. This doesn't mean that you don't love each other. It doesn't mean that you're not connected. It just means that you're not feeding off of each other anymore, and the unhealthy parts fall away. Now to talk about children healing Gaia. This is something that is very close to my heart because I've had it floating around for a while, and finally today it's come up in a way that I can verbalize it and kind of give it out. Before I talk about the children and how they can heal Gaia, I'll talk about the adults and how they can heal Gaia. This is for you guys. There was a big earthquake yesterday. I felt it. I thought it was a loud truck driving by, or a really big one that, well, not loud, just big because I couldn't hear anything, but that's what I assumed it was because I'm in Pennsylvania. You don't think anything's an earthquake, but it was. And what happened was, oh, a great big daddy long legs coming my way, so go off the bench. Yes, that way is good. Oh, there's two of them. I'm being mauled. Okay, they're in retreat. Good. Anyway, in my meditation this morning, I was speaking to Mother Earth, or Gaia, and she told me that it could have been a lot worse. And she did the minimal amount of damage that she could, and she was so relieved to get rid of that pressure that the earthquake relieved. And so here's what I can say to you, every single person watching this video, just like I tell groups that I speak to sometimes, now that you're about to hear this, you don't have an excuse anymore, you have to do it, is when you look out, even if you're stuck in an office and there's not anything natural around you except for a little bit of blue sky through your window, look at that, connect with it. And remember that our thoughts create things, and so imagine that Gaia is healthy. Imagine that all of the kingdoms, the animal, vegetable, and mineral kingdoms are all healthy and thriving and growing, not being smashed down. And speaking of that, imagine that all of the humans who need things, who are now mining them out of Gaia, either by using plants or minerals or water or whatever, that all of these things still be made, and that humans can still have everything they need, but they just have them throughout systems and practices that actually help the earth. Some of you might say that's impossible. I'm telling you it's not. The technology is already there. It's just locked away somewhere, or someone hasn't come out with it. It's floating around in their head. And if enough of us think about this thing, then the magnetic power of human thought will bring it up and will make matter stick to it, and it'll become something real. So think about a world where people live in harmony with the earth. You don't even have to think about it very specifically because you might not know what that looks like. Just put the intention out and feel the good feelings that will then magnetize that truth to come and become physical. So now, here's how the children can do it. I love this. Okay. Adults who are caretakers for children, explain this process to them, and then I'll tell you how to kind of remind them about it. You can't force them to do it or else it won't work. And if they're not interested, don't worry about it. But I know there are a bunch of little nature-loving kids out there who will love this. And they can be as little as maybe 3 or 4, or maybe younger if they can cognitively grasp the subject. I mean, it's up to you to judge whether or not the kids will then kind of do something that might not be the healthiest, like eat something from nature that they shouldn't, or something like that. But if they can get it and they want to do it, then help them. And this is what they do. Go out in nature, it can be your backyard. Get a stone from the ground. Don't buy it from a shop, get it from the ground. Take it inside with the child. Have the child pick the stone. Whatever it is that they're attracted to, don't judge it because something in that mineral set is calling out to them. So, I mean, energetically, electromagnetically, and vibrationally. So, once they pick the stone, go inside, rinse it off, and have the children imagine there's a beautiful black butterfly that is driving around, flying around. Anyway, once you get inside, have the child take that stone over to the sink, rinse it in cool water, and have the child think that they are clearing it of any old thoughts or any old programs that are in this stone that someone else put there. Then have them carry it around with them for a few days, at least 3 days. Every day, remind them to take it out and put a bunch of love, all the love they have for Mother Nature and for Gaia, into the stone. All the healing that they can think of for the oceans and the land and the sky that needs it. All of these thoughts and all of this love, have them just put it into the stone. They'll know what to do. Just remind them about once a day. And then after about 3 days has passed, remind them that whenever they're ready, they might want to carry it around for longer. Whenever they're ready, you can take it outside. They can find a spot to bury it, and you bury it. That energy that they just put into that stone will be amplifying, and it'll be transmitting, possibly forever, definitely for a long time, depending on the makeup of the stone. So, if you live in a city, find a piece of whatever kind of stone that you find, have them do the same thing, and then you can put it at the base of a tree on the sidewalk or in a potted plant that's on the sidewalk in a city. You can even, if this is your only option, put it in one of your own potted plants. And adults can of course do this too, but it's a little bit more difficult sometimes for children to visualize all the things that adults can. But if they can, in addition to this little experiment that you can do, and it's likely that the kids will love this, and you could just constantly keep doing this. Can you imagine these little beacons of positive energy that will be placed all over the world if a bunch of kids start doing this over and over? So, something else they can do. If they can imagine that, get them to draw pictures of a world where everything lives in harmony. Get them to think about it or write stories about it, because children's creative minds are just as powerful as adults. They just work a little bit differently. So they can be put to good service that they want to do, but sometimes children, it's hard for them to figure out ways to do things that'll matter because they're often told that they can't do anything that will matter. So this is something that definitely will, and this is something that they could do. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up what I was going to talk to you about today. As always, don't believe anything blindly, including me. Do your own research if you want, and proselytizing never works. So even if you believe something really strongly, you can't force anyone else to believe it. Same thing as I say about everything that I create, be it book, video, interview, article, whatever. I don't care if everyone reads it, or sees it, or hears it. I just want the people who need it to get it. So I don't care if people who wouldn't resonate to this message ever hear it. In fact, I'd rather they didn't, because then they'll have something less to be angry about. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Go in peace. Keep shining your light, and I will see you next week.